Well, well, I am back once again, and it looks to me like things are going to work out this time, which makes me very happy. I apologize for the mistakes. Sometimes that happens. I'm not perfect after all. I do try to be, though. So let's restart from where we were. I'm going to go back to the fact that this is Keith Jarrett and the Koln concert recorded on between January 24th and 25th, 1975 at the Opera House in Cologne, Germany. West Germany, I guess, at the time. Now it's a united Germany and has been for, well, longer than it was not united, oddly enough. So let's get into it, shall we? I'll get right back to it. And at the same token, I'm going to show you it as it plays. This is Keith Jarrett. Hope you enjoy. The brilliant Keith Jarrett, of course, at the Koln concert in Koln, West Germany, Cologne, West Germany, at the Opera House. The very first time an opera had ever been played at a jazz show had ever been played at that opera house. So first time for everything, and he was the man to do it. I'll tell you a little bit about that particular recording. It was complex, convoluted, and awfully complicated, to say the least. The concert was organized by 18-year-old Vera Brandes, then Germany's youngest concert promoter. The concert took place on a Friday at the late hour of 11:30 p.m. following an early opera performance. Late time was the only one the administration would make available to Brandes for a jazz concert. The first at the Koln Opera House, like I said. Show was sold out, filled the capacity at over 1,400 people at a ticket price of 4 Deutschmarks, which I don't even know what that would transfer to in today's money, but that is 50 years ago. So that was probably a very reasonable request for ticket prices at the time. Now, Keith Jarrett had requested a specific Bosendorfer 290 Imperial Concert Grand piano for the performance. But as it turns out, there was a little bit of confusion by the Opera House staff, and instead they found another Bosendorfer piano backstage, a much smaller baby grand piano. And they assumed it was the one requested, so they put it on stage. Now, the error was discovered too late to swap out the piano and have it delivered to the venue in time for the concert. So the piano they had was really, truly only intended for rehearsals and was in pretty poor condition, as I understand. Required several hours of tuning and adjustment to make it even playable. And I think the next line I'm about to deliver to you will make sense by the recording you just heard. The instrument was tinny and thin in the upper registers and weak in the bass registers, and the pedals, they did not work properly. So, the Brandes did everything she could to try and, try and get the replacement instrument in time. It just was not going to happen. As it turned out, Keith Jarrett, who had been issued a plane ticket to fly from Zurich, Switzerland to Cologne, instead cashed it in and exchanged the ticket for cash and joined ECM Records producer Manfred Eicher, who was on his way to Cologne in his trusty old Renault 4. So they had arrived to the Opera House late in the afternoon, and Keith Jarrett was extremely exhausted after the long drive. He hadn't slept well in several nights and was in pain from back problems at the time. He had to wear a brace as a result. So he did his best on the substandard piano, and when he learned that a replacement was not available, he almost walked out. But Brandes was able to convince him to perform, and this concert was scheduled to begin in just a few hours. So she's like, come on, you got to do this. And he decided, I'll play because all of the recording equipment is set up. So a bad piano, not up to his standards, not at all what he requested. And it's not an outrageous request. You're a traveling musician. You want to play an instrument that you're well used to. Most jazz pianists do not travel with their own piano, because as you move a piano around, it goes in and out of tune. It can be affected by humidity, temperature, etc., etc. So he did everything he could to make it sound as best he could. And as it turned out, sounded pretty darn good, all things considered. It was recorded by engineer Martin Weiland using a pair of Neumann U67 vacuum tube powered condenser microphones, which, if you know anything about microphones, the Neumann U67 is absolutely legendary. If you have seen the Beatles multi-part 9-hour documentary, I think it's on Disney Plus, if memory serves, there's a scene where John Lennon actually requests, give us some of those big Neumanns, which is the microphone they used to record that record, which turned out to be Abbey Road, if memory serves. Or was that Let It Be? I don't remember right now. It's not important because we're talking about jazz. And on to that. Let's move on, shall we? The next track is by a gentleman who goes by the name of Emiliano Lazanski. I want to get his name correct here. I'm just looking it up. Emiliano Lazanski. Yes, he's from Iowa City. Currently residing in Los Angeles. He's a fairly young fellow. I'm not sure how old he is. I'll see if I can find out. But he's let's see. He joined in 2020. He was selected by Herbie Hancock and Ambrose Akinamura. Oh boy, I'm trying to read my notes here, and some of these names are very difficult for me to pronounce. I do apologize. Akinamura and Herb Albert to join the 13th class of the Herbie Hancock Institute, completing the program in 2023. His debut album, The Optimist, was released in June of 2024. So, without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Emiliano Lazanski with the track Resemblance. What do you think about that? Emiliano Lazanski. I hope I have said his name correctly. I'm sure I have. Emiliano Lazanski. And I'm going to read you some information about the man. He's, like I said, he's originally from Iowa City, Iowa, currently residing in Los Angeles. He maintains a busy schedule as a performer across the West Coast and beyond. Recent highlights include a 2023 ASCAP Foundation Award in Composition, as well as a master's degree from the prestigious Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz Performance at UCLA. As I announced earlier, that was formerly known as the Thelonious Monk Institute. Now, Emiliano grew up in a family environment deeply entrenched in the world of visual arts. His grandfather, Maurizio Lazanski, was a prominent Argentine-American printmaker, visual artist and educator. As a child, he and his brother Diego would spend summer days and frequent afternoons in Maurizio's studio, watching his grandfather work on innovative large-scale collages and prints. His childhood exposure to the arts continues to expose and drive his vision for music. After he finished his undergraduate studies at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, Emiliano relocated to the New York City area. In 2018, Lazanski released Kin, a co-led record with musicians Danielle Dickinson and Connor Kent for the Outside In music label. In 2019, Emiliano was awarded third prize in the Scott LaFaro Bass Competition at the International Society of Bassists Conference. And as I said earlier, in 2020, he was selected by Herbie Hancock, Ambrose Akinmusir, I hope I said that correct, and Herb Albert to join the 13th class of the Herbie Hancock Institute. A very talented bass player. Young man, I don't know how old he is. It's not a whole ton of information available about the guy, but he's slowly building his resume as he plays. As I said, touring is what jazz musicians are, where their bread and butter is. It was never really truly about the recording as much as in it's the thing you want to listen to over and over again, of course. But when it comes right down to it, it's all about the tour and the live performance. And if you ever get a chance, as there is a new, the Ottawa Jazz Fest will be upon us very soon, as the month of June is just a few weeks away. I realize it's only May 4th, but June's just around the corner, and the Jazz Fest will be operational and in full tilt, as the saying goes. And to that, I'm hoping to catch a couple of shows this year. I only saw one last year, and this year I'm hoping I can get out to a few more if at all possible. But in the meantime, I'm going to play you a track from a gentleman who assembled a quintet. This is Eric Parmley. This is a single. It's called Jumpstart, and I think you might like this. I know I certainly do. Writer, producer, recorder, engineer, man of many talents, obviously. And that particular track is just a single, a one-off release thus far. There may be more coming. He's quite a talented individual. He lives in Norman, Oklahoma City area, and his range of music includes pop, R&B, funk, electronic, instrumental, easy listening, and more. And he's worked with quite a few people in the industry. Now, along with Eric, who was, I guess you could say, the head of that quintet, I guess. I'm going to say he was the head of the quintet in this instance. There's also an individual here, Caleb. Now, I hope I get his name right. Arredondo. That's about all I know about him. Sometimes some of these jazz artists don't have a whole lot of information about themselves online, unfortunately. He's accompanied by Noah Roberts. Couldn't tell you a thing about Noah Roberts. Ford Chambers, who... Ford is, well, according to this, a bassist centered around the Norman, Oklahoma City area as well. He's a bassist for the Jazz Exchange. He's also played with Joshua Stennis, as you know, Caleb Arredondo, I hope I said his name correctly, and Eric Parmley. A young group of guys. I couldn't tell you their ages, but I think they're all maybe in their mid-20s to early 30s, possibly. Don't quote me on that. Accompanied with them on drums is Joshua Stennis, who is a prolific drummer and composer, currently in the Oklahoma City metro area. Now, one of the things that I find interesting about this quintet Now, I don't know if they're going to be a long-term quintet or if they're just going to be, get together, record a track, release it. I don't know. But when you think jazz, you don't necessarily think Oklahoma City. And yet, jazz permeates everywhere. It's not just country music. Jazz is everywhere you go. Now, Joshua Stennis, his composition style is described as distinct as his drumming, always creating a soundscape which promotes nothing but good vibes. Stennis has accompanied a plethora of artists, including Adam Neely, Chad L.B., Steve Weist, and John DeVersa. I'm not sure who John DeVersa is, but I have heard the name of Chad L.B. and Steve Weist in the past. He's also a long-term member of the band for pop rock artist Cat Locke. In 2024, Stennis released his debut solo project entitled Daydream, consisting entirely of his own compositions. His plain and original compositions can also be found on all releases by the Jazz Exchange, of which he is a founding member. Let's go back to Eric Parmley for a moment here if we can. I want to tell you a little bit more about him. In 2023, he released the first single of many titled Lament, which is the start of collaborations between him and Megan Ballard. In 2024, Ballard and Parmley released their first full-length album, Funk House, that consisted of original and classic songs. Again, relatively new artists, very, very young, but the beauty of which, they've got some talent, and I want to hear more. I want to hear a whole lot more. Up next, we have an artist by the name of Ryo Fukui. I hope I said his name correctly. I'll tell you all about him on the other side. Let's have a listen to this track, shall we? This is Sonora from Ryo Fukui? I hope I said his name correctly. from the late, great Ryo Fukui. I hope I said his name correctly. I apologize if I messed it up. Sometimes I get things wrong, and, I hate to do it. I don't like to mispronounce people's names because that's their name. He passed away in March 15th, 2016, so 9 years ago, my goodness. He died of lymphoma, unfortunately. He was a brilliant Japanese jazz pianist based in Sapporo, where the beer comes from. He, that track you just heard, Sonora, is from the album A Letter from Slowboat. Now, Slowboat is a jazz club that he owned and founded in 1995, and he owned with his wife. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but his wife has continued to operate the jazz club from day to day. So he started playing very young. He started playing the accordion at age 18, and at the age of 22, he began to teach himself piano and soon moved to Tokyo. He met occasionally with saxophonist, I'm going to mess up the first name, Hidaiko Matsumoto, who offered valuable encouragement and guidance to the aspiring pianist. Nonetheless, he was often disheartened, feeling as though he was not making significant improvement in his playing. In 1976, 6 years after moving to Tokyo, Fukui released his first album, Scenery, and his second album, Mellow Dream, the year after. He continued to improve his skills over the following years in live performance, which is really where you cut your teeth when it comes to jazz. You need to play live to get good, and over time, you will improve. He became quite famous globally amongst the jazz aficionados, if you will, for people who just simply loved his music. And as a Japanese jazz artist, he was a giant. And so, like I said, unfortunately, he did pass away from lymphoma. But he described his technique largely as bebop and developed it as such. He worked with Sonny Clark, Avery Parrish, Leroy Williams, and bassist Lyle Arthur Atkinson. I don't know if we're related, but hey, worth a look, right? American jazz double bassist Lyle Arthur Atkinson. He went on to offer lessons and workshops to pass on his knowledge of music to others, and his final album, A Letter from Slowboat, was released in 2015, recorded live during his time at the Slowboat Jazz Club. Unfortunately, like I said, he passed away in 2016, the following year. But the Japanese jazz scene experienced a huge resurgence in popularity in the late 2010s with Fukui, and especially his album Scenery, which is probably at the forefront of renewed interest for Japanese jazz. You can find it just about anywhere, Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you want to dig it out, you can certainly have a good listen to it. It's a great record. I have it on my playlist and have listened to it from time to time when the mood fit. So, let's move on, shall we? I've got one more track for you today because it is 5 songs with 5 stories, 5 artists, 5 compositions. This is from the album Idle Moments by Grant Green. This is titled Yango, or Django, I guess you could say, DJ, akin to Django Reinhardt. The Rudy Van Gelder edition, the RVG edition, remastered in 1999. I think you'll enjoy this as much as I do. Oh, yeah, the late great Grant Green with the track Django, remastered by Rudy Van Gelder. And it was originally recorded at the Rudy Van Gelder, or the Van Gelder studio, I should say, at Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. Producer at the time was Albert Lyon, the head of the record label for Blue Note Records. So, unfortunately, Grant Green had passed away in 1979. Was it 79? I got to check. Yes, January 31st, 1979. For most of 1978, he was hospitalized. And against the advice of doctors, he went back on the road to earn money while in New York City to play an engagement at George Benson's Breezin' Lounge. He collapsed in his car of a heart attack and died. He's buried in Greenwood Cemetery in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, and was survived by 6 children, including his son Grant Green Jr., who was also a guitarist. He recorded prolifically for Blue Note Records as both leader and sideman. He performed hard bop, soul jazz, bebop, and Latin-tinged idioms throughout his career. Like I said, a prolific musician, a prolific recording artist. Sad that he died so young. He was only 43, I think, at the time. Yeah, 43 years old. So young. Now, his equipment, he played a Gibson ES330 and then moved on to a Gibson L7 with a Gibson McCarty pickup and an Epiphone Emperor with the same pickup, which is, Gibson is a big hollow body electric acoustic guitar, which is what a lot of jazz players tend to use. There's a great picture of him, if I can find it, playing that guitar, but unfortunately I don't know where it has disappeared to. Sometimes things just go sideways on me, and this is one of those times. Now, Grant, of course, was playing guitar on that track. Tenor sax was Joe Henderson. Piano was Duke Pearson. Bobby Hutcherson on vibraphone. Bob Cranshaw on the double bass. And Al Harewood on the drums. The record is quite legendary. It was released in both stereo and mono. And, of course, you just heard the remastered edition from 1999. It was recorded in 63, but it wasn't released until 65, which is something Blue Note had a habit of doing. Sitting on stuff for a while. Why, I don't know. The original album, the original vinyl version, was 42 minutes and 45 seconds long. The CD reissue had several outtakes, clocking in at 64 minutes and 6 seconds. So if you have the CD version, there are 2 additional tracks on it. There's an alternate take of Jean de Fleur and an alternate take of the track you just heard, Django. And the alternate track for Django is 13 minutes long. The original album was only 4 tracks in total. So, playing time of 42 minutes and 45 seconds. Idle Moments and Jean de Fleur on the A side, Django and Nomad on the B side. Django written by John Lewis, who was an American jazz pianist, composer, and arranger, best known as the founder and musical director of the Modern Jazz Quartet. So, I hope you have enjoyed today's show. I apologize for the hiccups that I had along the way. Sometimes that does happen. I will endeavor to get a new show out to you next week, hopefully Sunday, maybe Saturday. It all depends on how my week goes. Of course, I am now streaming this on Twitch and YouTube along with my own personal Facebook page, but it's available primarily on Spotify in the audio-only version, as I'm sure I will get several copyrights issued for the YouTube, in which case I will just have to go in and delete the music and leave the narration up for those who want to have a little bit of ASMR-style jazz voice narration. All right. Gotta go. Thanks for coming out. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully I can get something together for you again next week. Until such time, wherever you are in this world, listening, watching, or just chilling out. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.